Jambalaya is undoubtedly one of the most beloved and debated dishes that comes from Louisiana. Your jambalaya, as varied as it may be, will reveal where you came from, who your ancestors are, and exactly what they had to cook with. No matter what kind of jambalaya you make, the constant ingredients that you'll find in almost every one is ham and rice and those aromatic seasoning vegetables. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to make a Creole-style jambalaya that is a rich red shrimp dish redolent with a delicious seafood stock I'm also going to teach you how to make. When you're ready to start making your jambalaya, the first thing you need to do is make your shrimp stock. Now, shrimp stock isn't like any other stock that you'd make because it takes no time and it adds no cost, because all you're using are the vegetable pairings from all the seasonings that you had to prep to get ready to make the jambalaya, and of course, those delicious, fresh, wild-caught, head-on Gulf shrimp. Make sure you're using U.S. shrimp. It's the right thing to do. Now, into your stock pot, you're going to first add 5½ cups of cold water. Then, all of your trimmings from preparing your seasoning vegetables, with the exception of your bell pepper pairings. Bell pepper pairings never go into a stock because bell pepper, when it is boiled, will give the liquid a bitter off taste. All of the ingredients are combined over a high heat, and we're going to bring it to a boil. When it comes to a boil, it just needs to boil all together for maybe 10 minutes to extract that delicious flavor from the seasoning vegetables. And then you're ready to add the shrimp. When the shrimp have been added to the stock pot, they really only need to cook an additional 3 minutes or so, just until they're bright pink and fully cooked. Where you're getting the maximum amount of flavor from your shrimp are from the shrimp shells, but especially the shrimp heads. Now that the shrimp have finished cooking, remove the pot from the heat and let it all steep for just a few minutes. Now drain the stock, straining it carefully through some mesh, and then we're ready to let the shrimp cool so we can peel them. That's a very simple process. You take the shrimp, pull the head off and discard it, then grabbing the shrimp's little legs, peel across, and the peel pops right off. Squeeze the tail, and your shrimp is peeled. If you want to devein them, just cut down the top and pull the little vein out. Now it's time to begin to assemble the jambalaya, and we're going to start with some butter. When the butter's melted, we're going to saute the seasoning vegetables. Those are celery, bell pepper, and onions. The onions are always the yellow Spanish onions, the ones that make you cry. Those classic seasoning vegetables, celery, bell pepper, and onions, go into everything we cook down here in southern Louisiana, and are so prevalent in our cooking that they're sometimes referred to as the Holy Trinity. If you think about what goes into a classic French mirepoix, that's celery, onions, and carrots. Of course, down here in southern Louisiana, our water table is so high, it was very difficult to grow carrots. So that's how the carrot came out, and the pepper, easy to grow in this tropical climate, went into what is really the Creole mirepoix. The word jambalaya is said to come from the French word for ham, jambon, the African dialect word for rice, which was ya, and the Acadian, where everything was a la this and a la that. So, ham with rice and a little bit of anything. So a jambalaya is always going to include some ham and some rice. Our diced ham is now going to go in with our seasoning vegetables. And the shrimp can be added now too. It's very unusual to find a shrimp jambalaya recipe that tells you to add the shrimp cooked, and at this early stage, in doing some research on ancient original Creole recipes from the 19th century, I learned by adding the cooked shrimp to the jambalaya, they retain their brilliant color, they retain their character, and a wonderful sort of toothsomeness to the very end of the dish, never becoming mushy, which is often what happens with the shrimp cooked in the jambalaya towards the end. Now we're going to add the tomato paste. That's the essential ingredient that makes this Creole shrimp jambalaya red and adds a delicious sweet richness of flavor. That's distinctly a contribution from those original Spanish settlers. The red tomato is really the thing that separates the city or Creole jambalaya from the brown country jambalaya. In Cajun country, the jambalaya is always brown. Whenever you add a tomato product to any dish you're cooking, it's important to saute it for a little while because that will deepen and intensify your tomato flavor. Now we're ready to add our herbs and our spices. We're going to add a bay leaf, some fresh chopped thyme, cayenne pepper, and then some brown spices. We add a little chili powder, allspice, and a pinch of ground cloves. It's fascinating to me that those same brown spices are the ones that you find in the modern shrimp and crab boil preparations that you can easily buy on the market today. We're going to add some salt. And now we're ready to add the rice. The rice that we're adding is long grain white rice. Again, preferably grown in Louisiana. Stir the rice well into the jambalaya, making sure that all of the grains of rice are getting fully coated with all of that seasoning goodness you've already got in the pot. Now it's time to add our shrimp stock. This is how you get an essential flavor of the sea, the essence of the shrimp flavor into the jambalaya. Once you add the stock to the rice, you'll want to make sure that it's all incorporated, but you don't want to continuously stir the liquid and the rice together. That is the way that you for sure will end up with gluey, sticky jambalaya, which is the last thing that you want. Once the jambalaya reaches a full rolling boil, and you're going to want to see the whole pot really engaged in a boil, we're going to take the lid, put it on the pot, and turn the heat down as low as it can go. Then we leave the pot completely alone for 20 to 25 minutes until we know the rice is cooked. Now we're ready to check and make sure the jambalaya is done. With a dinner fork, we're going to fluff it up and make sure that it's evenly cooked all the way through. Now we can finish the dish with our green onions, and I like to add my green onions at the end of the dish, but give them enough time to cook. So although in essence they're a garnish, they're like an internal garnish where they're imparting all their flavor, but they're not raw when you eat them. Now we're going to sprinkle on some sweet Hungarian paprika, which is going to also brighten the dish up just a little bit. Taste it for salt and add more salt if you think it needs it. Put the lid back on the jambalaya pot and let the whole thing sit for about 10 minutes so the flavors can meld and marry. It's sitting off the heat. And here we have the whole delicious taste of Louisiana on a plate. You've got the briny shrimp, the salty ham, those aromatic seasoning vegetables, and of course, that sweet, rich tomato flavor. You can see just how delicious all the flavors are in this jambalaya. An important thing to know about your jambalaya is that it is supposed to be well seasoned, but not too hot and spicy. If you like your jambalaya spicy, you can always add a little hot sauce at the table.